Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life. And in this video, I wanted to talk about T-Mobile and T-Mobile going into rural America. And I wanted to speak on that to, temper people's expectations. So here we have an older article from Fierce Wireless. And the reason I chose this article because they emphasize a very important point, right? T-Mobile in early innings of rural distribution game, early innings. And I wanted to emphasize that as well in this video. So when you guys think of T-Mobile, you think of rural, you got to remember they are barely getting started. It's very early. And as well, the reason I also wanted to emphasize the distribution game, because T-Mobile, they have to have both. They can't have one or the other. They can't go into rural cities with distribution and not have network, and they can't go with a network and not have distribution. They got to have both. It has to be both. And I know they're fixing that. They're catching up to the pops that they cover. But the great emphasis here from Fierce Wireless is this is the early innings. Same with the network. T-Mobile is barely getting into that footprint. They've never competed in those parts before. So the perspective that I wanted to take on this rural build out, you got to keep in mind that T-Mobile is still going to lag behind the competition. Even after all the network is integrated fully 100%, even after the 10,000 new site builds are built, you got to maintain the perspective that T-Mobile will still have some catching up to do even after that fact. So I was able to track down some numbers, and it looks like T-Mobile today natively covers around 2.33 million square miles of the United States geographical footprint. With roaming partners, they cover around 2.5 million square miles of the United States. Just for comparison, AT&T is listed at 2.81 million square miles, and Verizon is listed at 2.68 square miles. And that's natively for both. So that's still quite a large gap. That's still roughly around the entire size of Texas spread throughout the country that T-Mobile is behind AT&T and Verizon. And then recently, very recently actually, we got the new FCC mobile broadband map. And if you look on that one, Verizon is number one at 70% covered. With this is referencing 4G LTE. AT&T is in second place at 65%. And T-Mobile is in third place at 42%. So they are definitely very early innings. Definitely. It's no secret. It's a fact, right? They said it themselves. And I just want to reiterate that point because I see some people out there that think, whoa, T-Mobile is there now. They're super, super close to closing the overall network gap because they're pushing the 5G leadership. And it's simply not the case. Right? Some people will go back and forth. It'll be a debate in the comments. It's just not the case if we're looking at it realistically. Right? And I think and this is just my estimation, I don't know for sure, but I think after the 10,000 new sites are built, and I think they already probably built a majority of them over the last 2.5 years, I think T-Mobile natively will probably be at that 2.5 million that they now get to with roaming. I think they'll be at the 2.5, maybe 2.6 million square miles covered. But they will have a ways still to go to catch their competitors, which is fine. I don't see that as a problem. T-Mobile is still somewhat the scrappy competitor. Also, they don't think that, right? Because they're now a bigger company, but they get into these new places, these new rural places, and they compete and they win, which is fine. But there are still going to be towns and rural areas where they don't have any native service. And if there's no native service, from what I'm told, you really can't sell your services in terms of a retail distribution based on a roaming deal. So a lot of these areas, like across Nebraska, for example, where they've had roaming agreements, they don't have any retail distribution because that's just roaming coverage. So if a T-Mobile customer does end up in those areas, they can still have some type of network. But you cannot build retail distribution based off of a roaming network. You have to build out natively to bring your retail distribution. So that's just what I wanted to talk about in today's video, to kind of for you guys to step back and think just a little differently about T-Mobile and rural America. Right? Because I see people like, oh man, they're all caught up, they're all the same, they're all equal. T-Mobile's claiming parity. Not the case. It's just not the case. Every single third-party map, crowdsourced, the FCC map, will tell you they are not there yet. They're just not. And some of you have seen it. Some of you have experienced it yourself. Now, that's just from a networking perspective. Again, like I said, when it comes to the business, the growth, I still think T-Mobile wins. Verizon has a problem there. Verizon has the best network. They have the biggest network. The C-band is being deployed at a robust pace. And they still can't grow the consumer side. That goes to T-Mobile. So the scariest part of T-Mobile is when they really close that geographical footprint to AT&T and Verizon. And AT&T and Verizon know that. That's why they're continuing to invest in that to further grow their lead, so T-Mobile doesn't have a chance to catch up. So leave all your comments in the comment section down below. Just wanted to make this video just to kind of, like I said, looking at it from a perspective of objective, right? You got to look at it objectively. And then I hope some of you think just a little differently, like, hey, T-Mobile might work for me. It might be a better deal, better value, better price. But if I get it, is it going to work the next town over? Like I keep saying over and over again, is it going to work out of 15 minutes commute at the factory where I work? So I highly recommend you to do T-Mobile's test drive or ask word of mouth to see if T-Mobile works in those areas if they so happen to make it to your town. Because I'm seeing that now T-Mobile is starting to really compete in these smaller rural areas and people are starting to join them, but then they are having issues the next town over or 2 towns over. They don't have reception. They have reception in their main small town, but then they go, like, for example, 70 miles over to the 3 towns over to visit a friend, and there's no service. So that's just some of the things that I'm hearing. But again, just keep that in mind as you're making your buying decision in those parts with T-Mobile. So make sure you guys stay tuned to the channel, like, share, subscribe, follow my social media outlets. This is Tyrone with Tech Life, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.